Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, once again, we are 6.5 months away from the election and Donald Trump is still in the lead. We covered this in the last video. He's expanded his lead in all of these swing states, it seems. And on top of that, Joe Biden's approval rating is in the absolute gutter. Only 40% of the country approves of him. This doesn't even include the Pew Research poll that came out that had his approval rating at 35%. 538 has Biden at like 38, 39% approval, and we're running out of time. You're running out of time before the election. Yes, you still have the conventions. A lot can still change, but what has changed over the past 7-8 months for Biden? Exactly nothing. I mean, you even go back to the midterms. Biden's approval rating during the midterms was approximately underwater by 11 points. Now it's underwater by 16 points, which is never a good sign. Usually presidential approval for presidents that get reelected kind of surges in the fourth year. But this hasn't happened. For Biden, you see quite the opposite. And when you're in this position, don't you think that you try and pivot to the center, maybe try to realize why people don't like you and try to win over supporters? Well, Joe Biden is going out there and he's doing the opposite. Now he is proposing a very high capital gains tax on investments, which is going to potentially cripple the economy for everybody if it goes into effect, and probably also alienate his donors in the process. I don't know exactly what his team is exactly thinking here. Maybe they're trying to win over some of those people on the far left who might not like him because of Palestine, but apparently they're realizing that abortion might not be enough to do that. So they're trying to do this, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure that this is really going to be enough to change those people's opinion of Joe Biden. It's kind of like a footnote, but it's something that Republicans can highlight and say, you're trying to raise taxes on investments by this much. It's going to cripple investment, because if it's going to be higher, what's the incentive exactly to invest, even when it comes down to things such as businesses investing in these lower middle, income communities? It's not exactly something that is going to really help you. Whenever you're talking about raising taxes in a political campaign, that's never something that helps you. So you're looking at this, not good for Biden, but it's getting worse and worse by the day potentially, because you remember the whole immunity case that Donald Trump was going to bring before the Supreme Court, where he essentially was going to say some of the things that they're trying to prosecute him over, he has presidential immunity regardless and can't exactly be tried over them. He'd have to be impeached for it and removed in a Senate trial, because that's literally what the Constitution says about the matter. It's a sound argument to a certain extent. There's, of course, going to be questions on the limits of it, but still, that may be enough if there's a Supreme Court ruling to throw a lot of the cases out. And this is a Reuters article. What does it say? It says U.S. Supreme Court justices in the Trump case are leaning towards some level of immunity. So you're seeing more charges potentially going to be thrown out. You're also seeing the fact that if this appeal is successful, the delays are going to continue. It was unlikely at this point that you would see this trial start taking place before the election anyways. The Florida case, that may not happen until next year. That may get thrown out by the judge for selective prosecution as well. And on top of that, you have the case in Georgia where the prosecution is just totally in shambles. They're caught up in a corruption scheme of their own, which is actually a legitimate corruption scheme. Seems like Donald Trump just tends to have the best possible enemies, because they always just implode on themselves. And he really has become Teflon Don in many ways. And hopefully that can be enough to carry him to a re-election in 2024 for a non-contiguous second term this November. Is it possible? It's very possible, probable at this point, one could say. But even though a lot of justices said that it's a far-reaching argument to talk about absolute immunity for certain things, On top of it, when you look at what's in the case, Donald Trump did not try to overthrow the government. Everybody knows it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the trial that he's going to get in D.C. is going to be fair. But still, in terms of trying to ask questions about the election, which 40% of Americans believe to not exactly be a legitimate one, that in and of itself, not even close to being illegal. Now, they're trying to ramp up the justice system about that in other states like Michigan, like Arizona. For some reason, if this was some horrible thing, could have brought the charges in 2020, late 2020, early 2021. But no, they're waiting until you have new attorney generals in some cases. You're waiting until 2024 to do it. Why? Because it's politicized. It's a political prosecution, political persecution, both of them actually. And you're looking at this, though, the conservative justices are indicating concerns that presidents lack any degree of immunity for less egregious acts. What that could do is at least throw out a potentially long list of these charges at a minimum. And that would just prove to the American public that, oh, well, Trump actually had some legitimate reasons for bringing this forward. They were saying he's like wasting time, whatever. He's trying to put this off because he knows he's guilty. Well, apparently, if they side with him, they may be angry at the Supreme Court, but they're just interpreting the Constitution the proper way. That's what they tend to do. And it's not looking good for Biden, because if all these charges bounce off, it's likely going to make Trump look like he survived a political persecution. And if these charges, they manage to get him on nonsense, what does that exactly do? Well, that potentially could backfire on the Democrats as well, making him into some martyr, making him into some victim. So either way, they put themselves in a really bad position. And of the 4 bogus cases, the one that they're actually having on trial is the most ridiculous one as well. And Donald Trump's numbers are going up because of it. Joe Biden's numbers are not going up. And on top of it, his approval rating is actually going down. And on every other issue, it's going down even further. So what is Joe Biden trying to do instead of trying to fix the problems that he has caused for this nation, like the border, reinstate remain in Mexico, which he's not going to do, even though it would probably solve a decent amount of the problems. What's he doing? He's trying to run ads saying that Trump said, football is boring as hell during the NFL draft tonight, which they're taking clips out of context when they do it. Basically, Trump was talking about the NFL back in 2017 after the whole, Colin Kaepernick thing. He was going to war with the NFL. Seems like that war is kind of simmered down over time. The whole woke wave is kind of, may not be fully over, but it's kind of in the rear view mirror. That's not to say there's no concern still. There are, but I feel like a lot of people are just pushing back to the point where you're kind of seeing it slow down even further. But then they're like, oh, well, Biden had the Chiefs at the White House. I mean, Trump literally did the same thing. He had the Eagles, or not the Eagles. I think that was the team that wouldn't go, but he had the Patriots, I think, twice. I don't know if he had the Chiefs, because it is true that you did have COVID hit, but he probably would have had the Chiefs if there was no COVID. And Biden, they're saying, oh, Biden, he's handing a football out to these veterans. Like, Trump goes to the Army-Navy game every year. Like, he's a big college football enjoyer. Like, when it comes to the NFL, he's had his beef with them, but to say, oh, well, Trump says football is boring. Do you think that this is like messaging that's really going to win over people, even people that like football? Because people that like football, they don't like Joe Biden. You have a lot of, men from, I guess, all ages. That's not Biden's strongest demographic. And on top of it, it's something where you're looking at this and it's just like every single comment section of every single sports meme page on Instagram. I've never seen a positive comment about Biden literally ever. Maybe here and there have been some that have leaned against Trump, but usually the comment sections are in favor of Donald Trump. And yeah, obviously it's an anecdotal thing, but to say, oh, this is going to move the needle because I'm showing Trump clips out of context that are so obviously out of context and from years ago, with Biden not even knowing what a football is, like just tossing it to these military people here. Yeah, I don't exactly think that this is something that is really going to stop Biden's approval rating from being in the gutter. I mean, you'd have to be utterly delusional to believe that it would. So it just shows they have nothing. They have nothing. It's only one example. Trump's running ads, and they're better, the ones I've seen. He's got one ad about the border that's airing now in Georgia. He's also got another one where you have a Biden voter who's an ex-Biden voter or voted for Biden in 2020. He's upset when the Biden campaign calls him, and the Biden campaign lady says, well, you don't support these newcomers? And he's like, you mean illegal aliens? He's like, no, I don't want our taxpayer dollars going to them. And then she's like, can we still count on your vote, right? He's like, no, I'm done with Biden. I'm voting for Trump. It's like simple ad, but it works. I actually did a video on my exclusive website just kind of analyzing the ad for about 10 minutes because of how decent of an ad it was. So feel free to join up at redeaglepolitics.com. The link is in the description and pinned comment down below. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.